Hello, everybody, and welcome to the conclusion of Film Seizure's APE-ril. And the more and more we've been going along this, the more and more I've seen other people use it. I'm suing everybody. I believe there may be some insider trading going on. I'm suspect of both of you.
It is very inventive to use APE-ril. Like, I'm surprised somebody else even thought of it.
Yeah. Well, I think one of you was being facetious and the other one might have been real.
I know. I'd never heard it before.
Anyway, my name is Jeff Arbuckle. This is Film Seizure. With me, as always, Chuck Moore. Chuck, how's it going?
Going great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I went to you first this time because I think you and I are simpatico on one of these movies. The other person I'm not simpatico with, Jason Oliver. Jason, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad we're all here. We have made it, crossed the finish line, and we're doing so in a way that we haven't done in quite some time on this show, which is talk about more than one movie at once, in terms of like really kind of digging in. But I thought that would be good for these two movies because there are things that happen in one that get immediately picked up on in the second one, even though there's a time shift. And I don't know about you guys, but both these movies are easy breezy watches. They go by fast.
Yeah.
One, as far as time is concerned, I agree. Yes.
Yeah. And one of them, the first of these two movies, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, is a really pretty straightforward plot, whereas Battle for the Planet of the Apes, the second movie we'll talk about here, there are a little bit more twisty-turny things that kind of, there's kind of two climaxes to that movie.
I liked Battle better. I'm just going to get it out there. I liked it better. I actually think I might like it. I might like it the best of the sequels.
Okay.
Even though it looks the cheapest. It's so cheap.
Both of these are pretty cheap.
They're both pretty cheap.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like, 20th Century Fox was tightening the screws more and more. However, both of these movies did pretty well comparatively. So much to the point where they almost reversed course to make a sixth movie, but opted for the TV show instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Which didn't really take off, did it?
No.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, Chuck?
I don't even know what I was going to say anymore. I think I was going to say that these two movies, one good reason to talk about them both at the same time is that they probably should have been one movie. Or they could have been one movie, given that I find them both to be a little thin plot-wise.
Yeah.
Like you could have covered the ground in a more meaningful, impactful way in a shorter time and then done both together, kind of. Yeah.
Here's kind of my problem with these movies.
Here we go.
Well,
nah, just kidding.
Look, they're fine for what they are. They're thin, like Chuck said. They're very thin, and one of my problems though is that they're not the most interesting stories. I feel in the Apes saga. I feel like what happens in between, like the whole time that Caesar is at the circus, what's happening in the world is way more interesting than the movie we get 17 or 20 years later or whatever. Like, I want to see that, which is, I think, why the new Apes movies have done a good job of telling a more complete story, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the three movies, and I'm going out on a limb to predict this for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but the four recent movies, with the new one included, are essentially longer versions of 4 and 5 from the 70s.
Yeah, for sure.
But
They answer all the questions that I have when I watch like Conquest. Conquest is like, what the fuck just happened? We're now in this police state because the simian flu happened, right? And all the cats and dogs are dead, which for some reason means that we're just going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy and take apes as pets, which is kind of dumb. Like, that's dumb. And then those apes are now going to evolve like super quickly because why? Maybe the disease. I mean, and then also, we're a civilization that is quite aware of this destruction prophecy at this point. So we're going to do the exact same things that were prophesized by Zira and Cornelius without any regard for the fact that we're just we're making our graves here, right? It's just like, I don't know. It just I was right into the beginning of this movie. I was just like, why has all this happened? It just seems way too convenient.
I'm gonna disagree with you on something.
Okay, you're allowed.
All of it. No, just kidding. I don't think that what Zira and Cornelius said to the committee was public.
Well, no, I agree it wasn't public. Well, but it could have been. I mean, it was in a congressional hearing.
But it was a closed door congressional hearing. The only people who were there were people who had something to do with those. Because the news, I don't think, actually reported on everything that happened there.
Okay, well, let's say that they don't. Wouldn't there be someone aware of the dangers of making apes pets and just allowing the legislation for that to happen? Because I'm pretty sure right now I can't just have an ape for a pet, right? There are laws about that kind of captivity.
Well, Zora and Cornelius, like, I'm just filling in blanks here. They were martyred, right? So there was probably public outcry, and any kind of legislation against it would have been like railed against a lot, because initially they wanted these apes to be their partners, like a dog, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what happened to make them have to be controlled and in the police state. So I agree with that there. Like, how did we get from them being pets to them being slaves? Unless we're saying all pets are slaves. Well, I agree. I agree.
That is a crazy leap to me. I can't have my cats and dogs, so I'm going to have a chimp for a pet now. I mean, that's just a big leap.
Well, they did explain that they were trying to do the small chimps, and then so they did small animals first to try to replicate that.
We're gonna live with silverback gorillas now too. I mean, it's just like,
hey, none of them are silverback gorillas. They're all like whatever those black gorillas are. Like the non-silverback.
We became a country of
it's not Congo here.
We became so good at coexisting with apes. We're like Jane Goodall all of a sudden. We're just like
I think I understand, like, watching these back to back bring up a lot of these questions. However, I think the intention of the writers, from what I've read about and I've seen, talked about, was to kind of create a full circle.
Well, obviously,
while also kind of getting a little, I mean, like, with each subsequent movie, they thought more and more about something, right? Or, like, they threw something else in, to the point where I kind of think that, and it's kind of sort of mentioned in Battle at the beginning with John Huston Ape, where something kind of like, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. That there was a
right.
It was a miraculous.
It was Aldo. We learn in the third movie from the retconned history,
right,
that it was Aldo who was the one who started the revolution. So yeah, like, history has changed a little bit, right? Like, the reason why and the progression to where we end up at the end of Conquest is a different chain of events. which I find interesting and believable, right? It would be different. Because now we've got this future knowledge, and if it's going to be a true paradox, that doesn't really work, right?
Well, I look at it like instead of like creating a full circle, what they kind of created was like an infinity loop where like another circle has intersected with the original and changed the path of the future. And that is, I think, what we're supposed to think at the end of Battle is that the future has changed. It is a different existence going forward.
I agree. Yeah, which I again liked, right? I liked Battle I liked Battle more because I didn't have to make that giant leap I had to make at the beginning of Conquest, right? And that's why I just didn't quite enjoy Conquest as much. Was because of that leap. I'm just like, man, why am I now in like this totalitarian state that I don't fully understand, right? And why the hell would Ricardo Montalban bring Caesar into the city knowing the dangers? I'm just like, it's all just like one giant leap for plot convenience. And it just kind of took me out of the whole rest of the movie.
What about his goatee, though? That was a great goatee that Montalban had.
Yeah, Montalban is
he had
on
a
point.
good tan, too. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he was...
Montalban's looking good.
Macho.
Yeah.
But anyway,
1991 is a good year for Montalban.
if I can just then, make the leap, which I will do for the rest of the sake of this episode, then there is some enjoyable things about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't disagree. I think if you watch the movie in a vacuum, you probably don't have to worry about that leap quite as much, right?
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Well, like I said, watching these one right after the other, you start seeing the continuity issues, which, of course, 50 years ago would not have been that big of a problem for a lot of people because, whatever, apes. It's like,
Right.
Well,
movies like this weren't as scrutinized then either.
No, and again, I mean, it's like unless you went and saw a double feature or you did what my brothers did that one day and watched all 5 of them in one day at a movie theater, you're not.
I'd Armando if I had to do that. I'd Armando, right? I'd yeet myself right out a window.
Right through the screen that happens to be out a window, right into the ground.
Yes. Yeah, I think, too, though, these movies are trying to say something. So context is important when somebody is trying to convey a message to you. So you can't fully understand their message. Of course, what the revolution relates to and what the slavery relates to. They actually kind of spell it out in the movie.
On the nose and Conquest. Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty on the nose for the PG-rated crowd, for the kids watching, right? It's like, if you really think about it, it's like most of these movies really were not for 47-year-old thinking, adults scrutinizing the movies.
Well, I wonder about that because they're pretty dark. Like, are they really for kids? I know we had darker TV when we were younger, but
I mean, this movie, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, had to go through a recut. Now, the Blu-ray, I could have watched the extended version.
I was just reading about the extended version
because the end of the movie actually ends with the execution of the humans.
Yeah.
And a test screening in Phoenix, Arizona went, no pun intended, ape shit and demanded it to be changed. And
who executed him? Aldo or Caesar?
Caesar.
Yeah.
Caesar commanded the ape or the gorillas to execute their prisoners.
Wow.
So what they did is they went back, they added in Natalie Trundy saying no. And then they took other footage, zoomed in on his eyes, and Roddy McDowall recorded the voiceover that basically says, "We forgive you, and we're going to move forward now with our own world."
Do either of you think, even though we didn't know that Aldo was a gorilla from the third movie, right? Just that it was an ape.
No, it was just an ape. It was an ape.
I think it would have been cool if it had been Aldo and not a gorilla. If Aldo weren't a gorilla and it was like an orangutan or something like that who said no to Caesar. And maybe it could even be a gorilla, but that would kind of screw up their whole like warmongering motif.
Well, and it does create. I mean, like in
Because when I heard
Battle.
no, I looked up because I think I was looking something up. I was like, "Oh, that's cool," and then I saw that it was April.
Lisa.
Right? No, not
Lisa. April.
April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa. I was like, "Oh,
Lisa
I don't like
April.
that. I don't like that as much." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Anyway.
I mean,
She was the one that was paying most attention to him all the
Yeah.
time.
It's true.
So it makes sense that it was her.
she humanized him
Yeah,
in a way,
Yeah.
like. But yeah, it's
we kind of saw him through her eyes for a lot of the movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
because at one point he gets upset and it scares her, and she, and it's it's, and she was never actually badly mistreated like the other apes were. So she does have a different perspective of what's happening, whether it's for right or wrong. I mean, she kind of goes along with what's his name, McDonald.
MacDonald.
Mac.
Why the fuck did it have to be McDonald's brother in the sequel? Why wasn't it just McDonald?
yeah. It could have just been McDonald. I know he would have been older, a lot older, but it could.
I didn't. I always thought it was the same McDonald.
Yeah, it's his brother for some reason.
It says he specifically says he's the brother of
Old
Governor-
MacDonald.
Yeah, of Governor Breck's assistant or something.
Yeah.
like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think my guess, if I had to guess, was I think there were two reasons why they did it. One, they didn't have enough makeup guys to make him look older because it's like 10 or 15 years later. And two, I think it was intended on any human that stayed behind in the cities got blowed up real good. And McDonald, that would be a way for saying even McDonald died.
I mean, yeah, you have to assume he did,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, because the idea is that all of those other underground people were supposed to be dead too. Like they didn't expect to find anybody there.
The story doesn't make a whole lot of sense though in that respect, because if all the humans that were there got blown up in the city, like the apes aren't that far away, they should be dead too.
Well,
Why did they leave the cities? Like, we don't even know why the apes were like, let's get the fuck out of here. They're going to blow it up.
Right. Again, we missed the interesting part of the story here.
Yeah, it's
the too expensive to tell part of the story.
Right. Yeah. So let's go back to Conquest. We'll come back to that when we get back to Battle. So yeah. So I don't disagree, Jason, that it would have been nice if they would have done something like the Road Warrior, right? Have trot out John Huston as Lawgiver Gorilla Man.
I want to know: did John Huston actually get in a orangutan suit, or did they just use VO? And if they actually got him into a orangutan suit, I want to know who convinced him and how. Like, did he owe someone a debt? Like what?
And
You
two,
lost a bet. Yeah.
and two, does his orangutan family have two daughters, or a daughter and a incest daughter?
Oh, God.
Oh my!
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Apparently, the I don't know, what do you call it? Like the cross gene babies produce like little people instead of just like ape man. I don't know. That was weird. I was like,
I
wow,
don't know what's happening here.
I was at the very end. It was like the little girl who speaks up,
Oh, yeah.
and I think she's supposed to be like a cross between a human and an ape.
No.
Well, she's a little person. I mean, it's not like an actual
it's just a
child.
No, it is. It is a little girl.
Pretty sure that was a little person.
No, it's a little
I got to
black
rewatch
girl.
that.
Because I was like, wow, that's a choice.
No, it's a little black girl with like the pigtails and then the chimpanzee
I don't
pulls
know.
the
Go back and look at it. We can let our audience decide as well. But
That's a battle again.
I don't think they cast
Yeah.
an actual child. Is all I'm saying.
No, they did. It was all children that was at that hearing, because that was the point, was that was that John Huston ape was teaching the children that this is the struggle we went through for all of us to be together here at the end, you know. And it was a classroom.
All right, well, now I have two things I need to find out. If that was indeed a little person or not, and how John Huston got into interact. I need to know the answer to these two things.
Okay,
So,
but we're going to go back to Conquest
Yep.
to the Planet because we're 20 minutes in and we've kind of mixed all of everything. So basically, yeah, it would have been nice if there would have been like a Road Warrior thing where it's like they could have used stuff from, you know, previous movies or talk, you know, and they do kind of. Well, no, that's the only movie that doesn't have a prologue, so it just kind of jumps in, right? Instead of like setting the stage of saying, you know, it's like here, but basically, the spaceborne virus that ends up killing the pets of people, the dogs and cats in particular, that Cornelius talked about in Escape, turns out I think was them. I think Cornelius and Zira are the spaceborne virus. So they brought the spaceborne virus, at least.
Could be, yeah.
It could very well be. Like, they could have had some kind of...
They make a point to say it's spaceborne, right? And so it's like, I've always just kind of like, aha, it was them. They brought it with them. And then, so basically it's 20 years later. And, but in a way, this is kind of like we talked about last week. This is the result of that slippery slope of, you know, how willing they were to really, really change Cornelius and Zira's lives and potentially kill them. And certainly was willing to kill a baby. Yeah. And for the greater good, which then ends up turning into a much more controlled environment for everyone. And yeah, there is a very sterile look of the society. And I also, it's not necessarily, I'm not entirely sure that everybody just takes up and owns an ape in the society. It seems very aristocratic. Almost everybody you see that has an ape are kind of aristocratic in nature, or they're part of you don't just see the average person on the street necessarily with an ape. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because they force gorillas into work. And there are a lot of people who go shopping with their ape to carry around whatever they buy. There's the one lady who I think is either connected to the government or she's talking to somebody who's connected to the government. It's like, oh, you're no wonder you have such close access to the great governor or whatever. You know, I mean, it seems like it's there's a certain class that owns these things. And it's...
Yeah, again, we've gone beyond like them being the little monkey pets,
right,
to actually doing work and having to go through conditioning to be trained to do this stuff. It gets a different situation than what they started with. Yeah.
Right. And I get the impression that there's, you know, and again, you know, maybe there's a way that you could tweak this movie or tweak this concept to kind of do this, but it does seem like there is a societal upheaval as well, like a class upheaval. Because again, you don't just go from being a regularly operating society to a fascist situation, right? Something has to happen that is more than just your pets dying.
Yeah, and I think I either read it or there was a throwaway line about there being this basically civil war, right? I mean, everyone kind of, after the chaos of you know, the apocalyptic bombs and everything, you're kind of cut off probably from from central government, so it's natural that you would probably just start forming smaller civilizations, and that's just what we're in, I guess, is one of these.
I don't think the bombs had happened yet.
No,
in
that was Conquest.
That's later.
Oh, right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just I mean,
All we've had is a dog and
Dogs and cats dying
cat
together, mass
dying
hysteria.
together, mass
Right.
hysteria.
yeah, exactly. But I do think that
It's a really weird thing to destabilize the planet.
Yeah.
but the auction that happens, the cost of an ape is not normal. Even like you wouldn't buy a pet.
I mean, this isn't normal shit, dude.
$17,000, right? I mean, but I'm just saying, it's like there's a very the fascist society also seems to be aristocratic in its structure or in its actions.
We're only seeing the rich.
Right.
I mean, that's all we see. So there's no way to know what's happening with the other people.
But I'm just saying that it's like, it just does not seem as though it would lend credit to why there is a governmental system like that, right? I mean, it's dogs and cats dying doesn't just lead to fascism. There was probably a series of things, but
I don't know where you see fascism other than the way the people treat the apes.
they're dressed like SS officers. The cops are dressed.
I think it's supposed to be implied.
The cops are dressed like SS officers, like very specifically.
That's I don't know.
I mean, like they're pretty harsh about their penalties to humans whose apes misbehave as well. Yeah.
So what happens when you lose your dogs and cats?
It's Armando has to kill himself to be freed from being tortured by the police.
He's weak.
Oh yeah. I mean, he has no due process whatsoever, right?
Yeah, it's sign this, and then we're going to double check it with this torture device. And oh yeah, by the way, if we find out you do have that, we're going to kill your ape too, which they might have done anyway.
I'd be willing to bet that any kind of trying to suss out what's really happening here is a fool's errand, because they probably just took the worst things they could find and applied them to the people in charge, right? Like, let's just make them look bad.
Yeah.
And that's a way to do it, right? Give their officers SS uniform. Not even worried about what it means beyond the movie, right? And the way that the apes are treated. Because you would think that people would want to revolt with the apes if this is what was really going on.
Well, I don't know. I mean, J. Lee Thompson staged every scene with attention to detail, such as highlighting the conflicts with color. Humans wear black and other muted colors, while ape suits are colorful. One of the actors suggested to Thompson his wardrobe with a black turtleneck sweater and rehearsed his scenes after translating his dialogue into German to, quote, get this kind of severe feeling of the Nazis. So it was baked into the entire production was keyed into this concept. I mean, it's dystopian. I mean, it's just a dystopian world.
It's a weird choice. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the only way how do you get from a seemingly normal society of 1973 as it was dated in Escape to a brutal society that will eventually destroy itself? Well,
Donald Trump.
Fascism. it's fascist ideology. Yeah, I mean it's exactly that. But so most of the movie takes place in and around this ape training facility, to which I love that building. Like, I love that kind of sterile, like, ultra modern
kind of like brutalism.
Yeah, I mean, it's so stark. Like, it's just white and plain, and it seems like, let's put it this way, if somebody drops some paint or writes on the wall, they're being put to death. Like, it's telling a story with its own setting, right? It's
Well, it's supposed to look a little dystopian, oppressive, right? I mean,
it's very very organized and very sterile. There's no, which is kind of
law and order is what
right.
rules this place. Yeah,
Which is funny because that was a normal building. That was like an office complex or something. And if you think about like what's happened over the last 20 years in architecture for businesses, it's gone more and more drab white, very, very like uniform and look like all you have to do is walk into a McDonald's today and think about the McDonald's you walked into as a kid. And that's all you need to know. It's like it's corporatizing the look and feel and the structure of even the places you shop and consume has gone that way. And it's, but I always kind of liked it because there is like later on in the movie when there are things afoot, like, Caesar's trying to like escape that place. There's no place for him to really hide. Like it's wide open. There's, it's like he's gonna get caught. And I just kind of like that kind of, it is very, it's a depressing place. But, so basically, Armando has taken Caesar, and Caesar is the first chimp to be trained to ride bareback horse. And he's going around and trying to get people to come to a circus. A circus is not something that the people in the city have seen in a long time. They even think of it as almost kind of, quaint in that way. And they end up seeing an ape getting roughed up. And Chuck, what is it that ends up happening? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Caesar yells "lousy human bastards" at the people that are beating up. I forget what his name is, but yeah, he yells "lousy human bastards." Armando tries to cover it up by saying "I said it," and the officers are like, "You go ahead and yell that out loud, and we'll decide if that's what you said." Thankfully,
and I like it that he yells that, and the guy goes, "It could be." And then the guy
like,
right next to him, and the other guy right next to him's like, "Yeah, it was this chimp." And it's like, what's kind of crazy about that? One, it's that whole societal, like you're snitching on each other, right? For the dystopian society.
Right.
But also the guy who's like, yeah, it was his ape. It's like, you say that as if all chimps can say that. Like, it's like nothing new to him. It's like, nobody is like, oh my God, he can talk, or whatever.
Right. It feels like everyone's been on pins and needles for the last 20 years waiting for the chimp that can talk to show up. Yeah.
Again, though, you're facilitating the perfect environment for that to happen. Right. So, like, are you afraid of it? And if you are,
it's a trap, Jason. Just call it a trap. They were trying to trap Caesar.
Sure.
It's a long, elaborate trap. But yeah, while they are still going to detain Armando, I think, and bring him downtown for questioning, the other ape that is being beat up. I can't remember if it's a gorilla or a chimp. I think it's a chimp.
It's a gorilla.
It is a gorilla.
Yeah.
Starts causing a ruckus again, to which Caesar slinks away. And Armando follows him and is like, the only thing we can do, which this is all stupid too. Like, why not go on the run? The only thing we could do is I turn myself in and you turn yourself in a cage somewhere and get captured and go be with your people. Like, what the fuck, Armando? Like, you don't have a better plan for this?
Yeah. Well, a superior intellect he is not in this one, as opposed to Star Trek 2.
Right.
That is very, very true. I mean, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. If he was playing Khan, he'd fuck those guys up. I'd actually root for Khan in that.
Yeah, he would have been the good guy in this movie.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But hey, it's about the right time frame for Khan to be doing his uprising. So
Oh, maybe that's he jumps out the window and flies to space. He doesn't really die.
he floats away.
I have a feeling Jason is still trying to find out if it was a half human, half ape in the beginning of the.
All I can find is that it was credited to Black Girl.
Yes, because that's what it was.
But I can't find. Well, yeah, I know that's it. Was.
She could have been in makeup. Like I didn't notice anything.
No, she was just wearing pigtails and like.
But I'm
human
pretty
clothes.
sure that was a little person, but I cannot find out who played Black Girl in the movie. I can't find it. It's impossible. So anyway, I moved on from that, and I'm trying to figure out how John Huston got cast.
Well, okay. Well, we'll bring you back in when we get the back.
All right, we'll get back to that. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and basically, I want to call him Cornelius, so Caesar. Caesar has
I do the same thing. Yeah,
he is Cornelius though, like basically,
right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much in every way.
Just the younger version.
Yeah.
He hides himself in a crate with a bunch of orangutans.
Yes,
Which is a problem later when that shipping manifesto is looked up, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, why there was no chimpanzees from that area of the world?
right. Because the governor at this point is convinced that Caesar did talk. And that they're going to fucking find out where he is. That's why the manifest gets checked and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I know we'll come through all this, but.
Yeah. And Culp, who is the
interrogator,
he's the head of the SS group, basically. He's the chief in security guy.
He's the Spanish Inquisition.
Pretty much. Yeah. And nobody suspected it.
Nope.
So he basically interrogates Armando, who is not very good at lying. He's very nervous. He's being detained. He's not being, and basically he's being like for hours, he's being questioned about like, well, here's your ad with a drawing of Caesar. He sure does look like Cornelius. All the fucking
nope, don't say it. Don't say it.
All the chimpanzees look like Cornelius. And all the female chimpanzees look like Zira. It's like it's a literal chimpanzee in a haystack here.
Right.
So Caesar ends up going up for auction.
This is so maddening, dude. Can I just say?
Go for it.
The governor is looking for the smartest chimpanzee because he knows they can talk and he knows they're a problem. When Caesar is introduced at the auction, they're like, he didn't even need conditioning. He's so smart. They're like, buy him. And I'm thinking like, oh, they know.
Right.
No,
that's why they're buying him. But instead, they're just smart. Like, no, we want the smartest one.
We want the smartest one to do some filing work.
No questions at all on him. He's not going to be a bartender. But
fascism is not exactly smart.
Just think, like the
that's why they always fail.
The convenience of story writing this one is less than like mediumly good.
They had 88 minutes, man. They could not go over that. So
right.
Forget about it.
I'll say all the while I'm enjoying this movie for what it is. But go ahead.
Well, again, in a vacuum. Yeah, they're like, I love the scene because so he gets put to work, and shortly thereafter, Armando kills himself, which pisses Cornelius or Caesar off. Like,
yeah, because he hears someone talking about it. Yeah,
and he goes nuts. And at this point, at the ape management facility, he starts fucking with shit. And I love all of that, where he's starting to he's like reading off what somebody, like the ingredients of something that, and he's like, add a cup of kerosene.
It's orders that are coming from some rich person to be picked up by the ape, and he's adding add this to that, and then they steal the extra items.
Yes. And it's like, oh my God, they have Uber Eats in this future. And it's all gorillas. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I still wouldn't pay the extra upcharges for Uber Eats, but if I saw a gorilla delivering somebody's food, I'd be like, awesome. I'd give them a tip for the people because some people aren't tipping those gorillas.
No, probably not.
Anyway, so they go and like he's starting to he's starting to teach the other gorillas how to do certain things that they aren't really being trained for. And it is, I mean, the best way I can really kind of describe this is kind of giving them a little bit of satisfaction in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Because they start to grow fond of him. Like they obviously see Caesar as their leader of sorts.
Right. Yeah, I mean he's doing all the things that humans do, but probably with compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's certainly not yelling at them or hitting them or shocking them or whatever.
Yeah, all those scenes with him like standing in the background just nodding his head, I'm like, oh, fucking Caesar, you nutball.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, that is some sinister nodding back there.
Yes.
Roddy McDowell.
Evil ass nodding.
Those Roddy McDowell eyes, they pop in that mask.
Yeah, they do.
Nodding McDowell.
Nodding McDowell.
Nodding McDowell.
That's usually a Chuck line there.
I know, I got it. Well, I was surprised he didn't say it when we were talking about nodding.
My bad.
So anyway, also at one point, they want to breed Caesar, so they put him in the room with like the sexy chimpanzee lady.
Oh my God. My note says sexy. I have two notes that I'm very fond of: blowtorch banana montage,
Nice,
and sexy chimpanzee time.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We
I
didn't
forgot
see
about the blowtorch banana montage.
That's so good.
we didn't see the sexy gorilla chicks that the gorillas were being taken to. There were three gorillas and one Caesar.
I thought this was like the foible mistake, right? Like they bred him.
Yeah.
And that's what was going to create the problems down the line. But no, they're like, fuck that. Just watching him talk makes them talk. Not that like watching humans talk would do the same fucking thing. Like that part annoys me too. But yeah.
To go along with this governor's an idiot. I mean, Caesar is able to read. He demonstrates that he can read.
Yeah.
Which is something that they talk about that none of them can do yet. He points to his name in a book. It's like, oh my goodness. In the Bible, right?
No, it was a dictionary.
Real? Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's a baby name book. It was a baby name.
The baby name book.
It was a dictionary.
Easier to identify.
Because it
like,
had
this is my baby name book that I carry around.
Although it could have been, I mean, I suppose it could have been a Bible or would have made more sense, but no, because they look at it, McDonald reads the definition straight from the book.
Also, for a society, a civilization that is using apes as slave labor, they sure have to go to a lot of length for ape management. Ape management is basically this guy's only job. And it's a big one. Yeah. Right?
And he's the governor.
Yeah.
Also,
so maybe apes aren't ready for prime time is the point here. Like, why are you doing this?
Well,
they have the whole montage of apes fucking up, like before the actual subterfuge, right? I'm just like, man, why do they put up with this?
Oh yeah, because
it's like having children.
Yeah, it's like they light the one meal at the table, and the waiter ape like just goes nuts and like knocks everything over, and it's like, well, now you got.
He didn't go through the blowtorch banana montage. He did not go through that.
You have to get desensitized to blowtorches. They missed that step in his training.
Yeah, it's stupid. He'll never make a Bananas Foster, that's for sure.
Yeah, so and eventually we get the impression all the while that it's like really the smart guy here is McDonald, and he's also compassionate, and because like he is consistently like asking questions. It's like, are we sure we want to do that? You know, he's kind of cool to Caesar, you know, and that's why Caesar outs himself to him. It's like, yeah, I can understand. I can talk to you.
Yeah, I know.
And McDonald's like, yeah, and it's like McDonald's like, I figured you were, you know, and it's like, I can help you get out of here, which immediately fails. So maybe he's not any much smarter than Governor Breck, but what?
Well, he lets him go. He doesn't help him get out.
Well, that's true. I mean, he does. I think he doesn't. He tell him like, it's like, get out of here. This is the way to go. I'm just gonna.
He just says, "Get out of here."
Yeah,
is all he says.
Okay.
And he's aware that Caesar's gonna revolt because you know this is when they spell out the whole thing that the apes are, you know, whatever.
Also,
you of
by
all
the
people
way-
should know that we don't want to be slaves. Like,
Right. Like, yeah, like Caesar's like, he went there.
yeah,
He
Caesar,
went
yeah.
there.
He learned the histories of the American
Yeah.
slave, apparently.
Right. And can by eyesight figure out who he can say that exact sentence to.
Yes. Yes.
Well, also, I want to go back to what you were saying, Jason, about apes not ready for prime time. Did anybody also not think how fucking strong gorillas are?
Right. I know.
They're stronger than we are.
How strong
that
they
was-
should be.
That was my point earlier. Was
Well,
like,
they
why
start
are we
tossing people
why
around
are we
here in a little
hanging
bit.
out with gorillas? Like, this is crazy. They are so dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like typically, if you earn their trust, they're cool with you. But that's a long process, and they will pound you into the ground like Donkey Kong if you don't make a wrong step.
Don't
around
tear your
them
arms off, man.
and beat
Right.
you.
And that, I mean, that's like production of the era, right? They can't make these gorillas be gorilla like.
Well, they do
Which is
start tossing some
unfortunate.
people around here in
A little bit. They're way stronger than that, though.
Oh, sure.
In reality.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was still good seeing some people get tossed around. by apes.
It's just real good ape management until it's
Yeah.
not.
Their ape management is fucking terrific.
Ape management is grade A. Grade A ape managers. They have apes trained that are grade A ape managers. That's good.
Yeah.
That's what they should have done. They should have done like,
Grade 8.
you know, yeah.
Anyway, so basically Caesar gets caught. He gets
Could have had a
tortured.
whole Uncle Tom subplot in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They
it's already so on the nose. Why not? Right.
So Caesar gets captured. He gets tortured. McDowell shuts off the torturing machine so that, Caesar can, like, basically he does the same thing his dad does, which is kill a guard. It's like father, like son. Good for you. And then he's like, he gets on the radio and he tells the ape management guards that the apes aren't to be messed with, which I guess kind of works until they get outside.
Yeah,
Right.
it's kind of a smart because it's like, how do I put this right? So he tells them that they're worth $50,000 in apes or something like that. Like this is valuable property. Do not allow
Because-
them to be harmed.
Because
Yeah.
again, in fascist or authoritarian societies, property is more important than living things.
Well, assets.
Well,
State
sure.
assets.
State
Yeah.
assets are more important than the living things, whether those assets are living things or not.
I like how the shock table was labeled appropriately.
But they probably just borrowed that from the '60s Batman show where everything is labeled.
Yeah.
It's like that's
Shark
the bat
repellent.
shock table.
I wish it had a number on it, like Shark Table number 4 or something like that.
Yes. They don't have enough shock tables in there.
No.
They need multiple.
Take them to Shark Table number 4.
It's like that means there's at least 3 others. So yeah, and this is basically the
My
whole
favorite Shark Table.
it's the one that works the best, a little extra juiced. So basically the entire third act is the apes taking over the ape management facility.
Yes.
And it spills out into the outside, and some apes get killed, but Caesar, he's leading them on. He's out in front. And there's the one guy. The line that kills me is at one point. There's the guy who he's like on the horse or whatever, and he keeps like trying to tell them no, because no is the word that they are taught to fear.
Yeah.
And Governor Breck's like, don't negotiate with them, shoot them.
Right.
It's like, stop talking to them. It's like, yeah, idiot. It's like that they're not stopping and they're not knowing. So it's like, yeah, idiot. The humans deserve to die in this movie.
In these kind of societies, though, like 80% of the people are just along for the ride. Like they have compassion, but they're following orders.
Yeah.
Right. They have to follow orders. And that's what I think is shown there.
Sure. Yeah. Because like the guy is, and also, and to a certain degree also, I'm sure he didn't wake up today to go to work expecting a fucking militant, revolt.
Right.
So it's like he's probably just doesn't know what. I mean, and some of those people in the system are also going to be super duper weak. They're strong in the safety of being a part of the thing, but when the chips are down, they're going to be weak.
But yeah, the apes basically, while like you say, lose their numbers, do get into the governor's. I don't know if that's because they were in ape management before, right?
Yeah.
And now they're in the governor's office. They're trying to break into the governor's building, whatever it is. And they do.
Yeah. And they tie up the governor. They toss some army guys around, and they light the fucking place up.
Yep.
Like they learned how to do Molotov cocktails and everything. It's awesome.
Yeah, I wish they'd threw them at the police instead of in front of them, though.
Yeah.
They have compassion too, apparently.
Their budgets is what they have.
Yeah. Can't light anyone on fire.
Yeah.
That's
we don't
like
have stunt people. It's like those are real actors being tossed.
Yeah.
Like the big fight scene at the end of this is just kind of cheap.
It's very long too.
It goes on too long. Yeah, and it's not very fun to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but at the end of
you
it,
get that great speech at the end.
yes.
It was a great Roddy McDowell moment for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, cause he's also like, he's gunning down some motherfuckers too. They do light a guy on fire though. They do get a burning.
Yeah,
One
they
guy.
do get a Burning Man.
one guy.
Well, but it's like better than no guys.
Sure. Yeah, that is true. That's what, at least in battle, we get some legit-ish explosions, which are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some tree explosions and things.
Yeah. So basically all the humans are rounded up. Culp, McDonald is not really arrested. He's with them, and he is kind of in the middle of the apes surrounding the humans. But the big guys are Culp and Breck. That is who in the original movie are basically murdered on Caesar's orders.
It's a good thing they didn't kill Culp, right? In this one.
Yeah, because they need him later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Breck's speech at the end, I thought was pretty corny.
What was his speech? I don't remember.
The one line I wrote down was, "We hate you. When we hate you, we're hating the dark side of ourselves."
Oh, yeah.
He says that.
We all have an animal inside us.
Yeah, it was real silly.
Yeah, but Caesar owns the scene.
For sure.
Because, this is where, because the line before that, he's like, "The king is dead. Long live the king. Tell me, Breck, before you die, how do we differ from the dogs and cats that you and your kind used to love? Why did you turn us from pets into slaves?" That's a pretty good line, too.
It is
But then later is McDonald is basically saying, "Hey, man, how about being, a little bit more humane?" To which he's like, "Yeah, I'm not born a human, so fuck your humanity," and this is where he's like, he starts in on his big line. It's like, where there's fire, there's smoke. And he's talking about like the inevitable day of man's downfall, and he's like, and that day is upon you now. And that's when
Lisa.
Yeah, and then Lisa's like, no, and he's like, well, okay, all right. We'll put away our hatred, and
We'll dominate you with compassion and understanding.
Yes. So cast out your vengeance tonight. We have seen the birth of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes. And then we see the birth of then we see the battle of the Planet of the Apes, literally the movie, which we're going to talk about right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many years later is it?
It's about 10 or
26.
15. Is it 26?
I thought it was in the 20s. Yeah, 26 years later.
I know it's early 2000s. I know that, or something like that. It's early 21st century. Whether that's aughts or teens, I didn't know. So.
Yeah.
Which would make Caesar in his 40s, I guess.
46. If it's
Yeah.
26 years later, he's almost 50. Which I almost looked up the life expectancy of a chimpanzee. I don't know how long it is. I'm guessing that the movie has changed that, or maybe he would live longer because he's from an evolved.
Yeah, because he would probably live a human's time.
Right, because they probably were 600 years later, which is what his lineage is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense. It
But
doesn't
yeah,
explain why Lisa would still be alive, but
that's a good point.
38 to 40 years.
Yeah, gorillas are about 40 years too.
But also we don't know what the simian flu or whatever did, right?
Right. That might have evolved them,
Right.
Well, they might have started getting medication like humans to elongate their lives.
Well, they do. Yeah, I mean, in Battle of the Planet of the Apes, there is that one really hot human doctor that comes and takes care of them for everything they need.
Yeah.
That she was credited as hot human doctor.
Yes, that's how I would have credited her. Yes. And now there is one. Get this. There is a lowland gorilla in Berlin that is currently 65 years old, and there was an animal actor in the 30s named Cheetah the chimpanzee who lived to be 80.
Wow.
Dang.
So it's kind of like every now and then you hear about a cat that's lived to be 30 or something. It's like, oh, okay. Well, some can make it longer than
So I'll just get this out there. I thought this movie was pretty stupid. The last one.
What, Conquest?
Yeah, I think Conquest is pretty dumb. There's some of it I like, and I like what it's trying to do a whole lot. But I'm just like, the whole time, I'm like, what the fuck?
I think
what the fuck? Aldo, you fucking dumbass.
Well, it's because like the Conquest is kind of it's a silly concept, right? It's it is kind of a
wait, Conquest or Battle?
Oh no, I mean, I was just going to say with Conquest, it's like, again, I will say it is better in a vacuum. Battle is for me, Chuck, I do think it's a step backwards, because Aldo is like, he should not be part of a society. He is clearly got issues. And Caesar needs to do something about that.
Yeah, Caesar's way too lax with this shit.
Yes.
He's like, well, you won't be a part of the future, but I haven't decided when. It's like, come on, Caesar, get rid of him now. He wants to kill you.
He's a fucking problem. I mean, you sat there and pondered the concept at one point to, I guess, McDonald number 2, that, was it right to kill evil for good to triumph? It's like, sometimes, yes. Yes. The answer is yes, sometimes.
Yes.
And it's right here, right now, outside. That motherfucker over there is plotting to kill you.
So, Jason,
it's tricky though, because
Ape has never killed.
That is their sacred law, man. It's the only thing that keeps them together. It's the only thing that keeps them from from being human.
They
right?
can strip him of his power, though. Like,
They could exile him, something. I agree.
right? They don't.
They
have to
can't kill him. They can't kill him.
Well, yeah, but you got to do something about it. Like he can't be. He is a destabilization element in this new fragile society.
What's unfortunate about his character is that he is needed for the outcome.
Yes,
If what he didn't, he's absolutely needed for the outcome.
His example,
yes,
is ultimately what maybe leads to an ape-human utopia. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I guess if his problems were less outward and more only we could see that he's a fucking psycho, instead of everybody knowing it and disregarding him.
Yeah.
Like,
and then at times, like the fucking teacher making fun of him. It's like, dude, he carries a sword at all times.
well, he also said no to him.
Well, no, there's
I'm
that.
surprised he didn't get his head chopped off.
But before that, Virgil came in and saved the day there. But before he said no to him, he's like, well, obviously some people like Aldo is an idiot, or what, in so many words. And it's like everybody starts laughing. It's like, dude, fucking chill out.
Read the room, buddy.
Ape may kill Abe here.
yeah.
Yep. And then we wouldn't have APE-ril next year.
Nah, well, we got APE-ril on the horizon. All movies about Abraham Lincoln.
Oh boy.
April. Anyway.
Oh boy.
Okay.
No, and all movies about that teacher guy, because that's what actually was the series that was needed in this Planet of the Apes series.
Yeah. That was what they decided to spend the time on.
Yeah. Anyway,
although there is a Abraham Lincoln reference in these movies, in the one that we will not watch.
Oh well, yeah. Well, we're not watching that because it's dumb.
I know.
I mean, I get what they're trying to do with the twist ending of the novel.
Ape Lincoln. Wasn't it Ape Lincoln? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was an Ape Lincoln. But no. So dumb. Anyway, so basically, Aldo is there's like Caesar kind of leads this group of humans and apes that have survived a nuclear war. And human society is essentially gone, and apes are now in control. And they now, in kind of a reversal of the last movie, is they are the rulers, whereas the humans are kind of toiling away, right? And the humans aren't stupid. They haven't gone original Planet of the Apes humans,
right.
But they are obviously they're doing more toiling than
they're kind of like indentured servants.
Yeah, like because they are very obviously not equal. Because McDonald's like, hey man, when are we gonna get that? It's like when can we all sit at the same table? Yeah, they're serfs. Serfs are exactly right. Yeah.
Did you mention that one of them was John Landis?
No, but yes, it is John Landis.
John Landis is. Oh, John Landis is he was the goofy looking one in the pen at the end, right?
He was Jake's friend. Yeah. He's the goofy dude.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I was like, that guy looks familiar. He's so goofy looking. John Landis makes way of sense. Yeah.
So, that's all I have to contribute to this.
All right, there you go. All right. Well, so they then, and like Caesar is like pondering a lot of things, but he has become a kind of pacifist of sorts, right? Like he's no longer the militant person who got them to having their freedom, which there is something there to say about that, right? It's like after you win your freedom, what happens to the necessary people who need to fight that fight, right? And because it's such a fragile alliance in this society, like he has almost overcorrected too strong to be overly, he's not really passive, but he is certainly much more soft, or he's much softer.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I mean, he did what I would expect that any smart leader would do: is he kept the weapons, but he locked them up. He gave them to someone to monitor
Yeah,
and
that guy.
keep
I like that
control
guy.
of
That guy was awesome. I love that whole idea.
Mandible or whatever
the
his name
keeper
is.
of Caesar's
Yeah.
conscience. Yeah.
Yes, and he has the guns, so Caesar knows that if he needs it, it's there. But there's no reason to have it just out with the people, right?
Well,
It's
no,
like
and that's
our
not what
gun control that we are always arguing for.
Right.
Like let's have the force if we need it, but let's not just let it walk the streets.
Right. And what I mean by like, Caesar kind of softening a little bit is that he's not recognizing the internal threat, right? Like he feels that he is one and everybody's living in peace, not understanding that there is tension boiling underneath. And he's just like, oh, that Aldo, he's just that way, and he's kind of turning a blind eye to the real problem.
He does say that Aldo will not be a part of his future, but he gets sidetracked. That's where he really loses control.
Yeah.
Right? Is he gets sidetracked because Cornelius gets hurt and he's not there to do the things that he would normally do.
Well,
And
not
also,
only that, but he
even
also
before that, he's responsible in some ways for the humans, the radioactive humans, finding and disturbing their peace, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because of his curiosity about the future and his parents.
Yep.
Yep.
True that.
Yeah, because in a conversation with McDonald's like, well, I can, because Caesar says something like, well, I wonder what my parents would say about the whole thing about like killing evil for good to survive or whatever, right? And he's like, well, there's a way that you can hear the thoughts of your parents and hear, it's like in the city that's completely and totally bombed out and totally unsafe to go to. And even Virgil's like, seriously, dude, we can't be here for more than like an hour. It's like,
Yeah.
we got to get our shit and get out. But he's like, you can go and there's archives and we can, and you can listen to this, to your parents, which then takes him away from home, which that's the first mistake, is that he's just not present anymore at this point until the very, very end. He's distracted by his parents, and then he comes back to be distracted by his son being hurt.
I do think it's cool that some of these things, like, right, that's the forbidden zone. That's the forbidden zone we know from later in the movies. There's things that line up with later in the movies, but what's interesting is that their future is not the same. But maybe it hasn't changed yet. Right?
Yeah.
It hasn't fully changed yet. Interestingly,
one of the mutants named Mendez, who's like the second in charge with Culp, is now running everything. He's basically the king of nothing. Like there's nothing left for Culp to be governor of, but he still runs the mutant people. Well, he has an advisor named Mendez, and Mendez is the one who stays behind when they go off to war. And he's like, don't mess with, they didn't come here to mess with us. Don't go there and mess with them. And he's trying to make that plea. Well, in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, there are references to Mendez in some of the settings, and on the bomb itself, I think it's actually written or something.
So I think if Caesar, I don't think those people, right? Obviously, we haven't gotten to the end yet, but if Caesar hadn't gone there, those people would have evolved to the people that had the bomb, and that Mendez was their god. Yeah. But now they don't anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Caesar went there.
Right.
So it's all kind of interesting stuff. So they do a good job of weaving in that all of the other movies, like they cross paths with what could be the future. Mm-hmm. And even Virgil says, like, only the future can answer that. Like, if we can do these things that you want to do.
And again, going to the Forbidden Zone is an impetus for ape rebellion within their tribe or whatever.
Well, both sides have internal strife.
Right. So there's essentially what you have is you have Beneath the Planet of the Apes, but at this accelerated timeline, right?
Yeah.
Like it all happens way sooner.
600 years sooner, or
Right.
however
Well,
long it
yeah,
is.
really way sooner. I mean,
2,000
still
years
like
sooner.
2,000 years, basically. Yeah. But then with a more positive result, right?
Yeah, because I believe
I mean, any result would be more positive than the result
than the whole world blowing up. Yeah,
beneath. But
right. But I believe that following the elimination of Culp and ultimately the elimination of Aldo, those two sides, the remaining people of those two sides end up at least living peacefully side by side.
right.
You know, I mean, Mendez is not a crazy person like Culp is.
And there's not this de-evolution of man. Man is
Well, yeah,
given
because
freedom.
600 years later in the wraparound story,
Right.
you know, you have apes and people living together. Whether you
Right.
believe them to be ape people or
I think there might be some ape people.
They're not. No, they're people.
Okay, fine. But yes, they are living harmoniously together instead of going down this rapid decline of relationships to the point where humans have completely devolved. That is not happening in this new timeline, which I agree with your assessment, Jeff. My sense is that they do change the future. The bomb never happens, but they could have made a cool movie after this that puts them on that course, right? There's always, I think, that danger of that relapse. Maybe it's like Terminator. They're just delaying Judgment Day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, entirely possible that it still happens. It just happens at a different way.
Time and different way.
Because remember, it's like, because in Escape, Cornelius says that Aldo was the one who said no after years and years and years of being
Right.
of being basically punished and being hurt, which would indicate to me that Aldo would have gone a much harsher path than what Caesar did. But Caesar saying, you know, rising up, and Caesar and Lisa basically being the ones who foster the future, then that ends up, I think that at the very least is a better starting place than Aldo as a gorilla kind of ripping arms off of people.
And there's a fascinating story there, right? Like what let's jump ahead 2,000 years in the future instead of 600, right? And I think they purposefully put it, 600 instead of 2,000 to leave the door open, right?
Right, because Cornelius has a tear at the end when the two were fighting. Like, is that a tear of happiness that they live together, or is that not to jump the
that
gun?
it's going to fall apart?
It's going to fall apart.
That
like
was
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was going to say that was exactly the point of that. Was that was written in as ambiguous. It's like you take from that what you will. Is it written or is it changed?
If they really wanted to answer the question, Taylor could have relanded and seen the results of what Caesar had done, right? Like if Taylor relands 3,000 years later.
Right. I mean, that would be a killer ending, right?
That would have been the best ending ever if he landed and there was a flourishing.
But I think that could have been the next movie or the second of the next movies, right? I mean, that they're leaving really cool doors open with Battle, in my opinion, to do some even crazier paradoxical stuff.
But this was known to be the last movie when they made it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was advertised on the poster, the final chapter.
But you
however,
mentioned that they before that though they had made a conscious decision not to do another one.
Right, because the movie ended up performing the movie ended up performing better than they expected. And so for a brief period of time, they said, well, should we make a sixth one? And then they were like, nah. And then they ended up making the TV show in 74, which is just, you could argue that it is going off of, because it does kind of take place in that same John Huston era
Yeah.
of the wraparound story, because
It does. It does take place there.
Yeah, because it is well before the original.
Yeah.
Roddy McDowall does not play Caesar nor Cornelius. He plays Galen. So it's like it's an in between. It's a stopgap, and it's but it's just the problem was that they had this TV show, and that's kind of cool or whatever. But the problem is that it's still a TV show that is a bad guy of the week sort of thing. And how do you do that when you always have the same people chasing you? So
yeah, I was wondering about that. Like if they had done it more as a serial instead of a standalone episodes, it would have been better. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if it was a TV movie as opposed, then that's So but anyway, while so Virgil, McDonald, and Caesar are going to go to the city, and he says, they go to Mandemus, the weaponer, basically, who is like, he asks a million questions, like, why do you need this gun? And it's like, at one point, Virgil's like, McDonald would like to shoot and eat himself a rabbit. And it's like, then why do all three of you? Do you need 3 guns to kill 1 rabbit? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's like,
I loved that whole scene. I thought it was great. The logical reasoning and you have to.
And so he just gives them the one pistol to do the one thing that McDonald wanted to do.
Enjoy your dinner. Is that what he said?
Yeah. Enjoy your meal. Yeah. But they do get, provisions, and they head out. Now, I think that there's a lot of like editing here. I think that trip to the city is much, much longer. So therefore, I think they do travel a relatively long distance to get to the city. So I don't think the apes are affected by the radiation, although maybe that helps continue their progression of, becoming smarter and smarter if there was some radiation there, maybe. But, because for all we know, it's a combination of simian flu and radiation that equals super smart apes. I don't know. But anyway, they get to the base. They get to Ape Management, the bombed out ruins of Ape Management, where they have the film or the recording of Cornelius and Zira talking about the future. And I love the one thing where Caesar turns around to Virgil and is like, that's my father. It's like the way he says that. It's like, it's like a child, he's like so proud. It's like, hey, that's my dad. It's like, yeah, you look just like him.
Never seen him before.
It's wow. I don't see the resemblance. So yeah. And basically, once they get inside there, then Culp and his mutants can, they realize that there's intruders, which leads to a little bit of a fight. But because the people living underground can't really deal with the sunlight, they're able to basically get away. And when they get back to, their area and they run into Aldo, he talks about finding his past and their future. And I think that's when he basically flat out tells Aldo, it's like, you may not be part of the future as long as you think.
Right.
Because Aldo makes a line like, oh, that's stupid or whatever, he's an idiot.
He is an idiot. And this is when Culp is like, he sends people to follow him, and Menendez argues with them, or Mendez, excuse me, telling him, just leave him be.
They didn't come here for a fight. They came here for something, but it wasn't to fight us.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they do, well, there's a little intermediary part here where Caesar is telling Lisa about the malformed people, and Cornelius is inquisitive, and they show that he's feeding his pet squirrel, and then his pet squirrel beets cheeks in the middle of the night. And I said that for you, Jeff.
Beat stuffed cheeks because it's
Yeah, stuffed cheeks. Yeah. So Cornelius follows him out there. Or not Cornelius. Yeah, it is
real
Cornelius,
quick. Yeah,
the names
real
are
quick.
fucking confusing.
I know, right?
All this.
I know it's using the same names over. Yeah, talk about your real. What do they call that? Where it's a family that's always like in power.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, there is one good line there from Lisa, who again trying to reason things out. Basically, is like, well, how do you know that they are monsters? Basically, and it's like, well, because they look weird. They're malformed. It's like he doesn't really have a good answer for why he jumped to the conclusion that they were bad guys, other than the fact that they were obviously shooting at them. But it's like, you kind of didn't announce yourself. You just kind of showed up in their place and they defended it, and you're calling them monsters for it.
They are mutants.
Yeah.
And they're mad.
Yeah. Why do you call them mad? No, because they are. I don't know.
They shot at us.
They shot at us. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but Caesar kind of missing some of the sub and context of of what's going on and them going there a little bit.
I do like if we kill them, we break the peace or the truce or whatever. So there's this tenuous idea of a
Mendez says it's like you are we've had 18 years of peace or whatever it is that he says.
And I like what Culp says. Well, it has been rather boring lately, hasn't
yes,
it? Like
he's completely insane.
So he is mad. Yeah.
Right. Mendez is like, yeah, man, let's keep the peace. It's like he is thinking like Caesar, except Caesar is missing some logical steps to some of the thing that only gets filled in later when Aldo takes over. So yeah, back to what you were saying, Chuck, about what Cornelius is up to.
Oh yeah, Cornelius beats cheeks out into the woods, and he climbs a tree, and he hears Aldo talking about what power is, and power is owning all the weapons. Power is ousting Caesar. And then one of the other gorillas is like, hey, look, up in the trees. And Cornelius is like, we're not birds, we're a jug band. And
hey, I mean, it is Paul Williams after all.
Yes. Look at the birds up in the trees. Sorry, but this is really horrifying. Yeah. Like Cornelius is climbing up and farther in the tree, and then he's out on the thinnest branch, basically, and Aldo chases him up the tree and chops him down.
Yeah.
And pretty much kills him. I mean, he doesn't die right away, but
he has a mortal wound.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a mortal
wound.
He
is going to die. And this is, again, kind of going back to the people at Ape Management in the previous movie. Aldo's troops kind of just, they're not going to say, it's like, we'll look the other way. Like they're just kind of following the order. It is a
small number of them.
It is a small number, but it is, again, it's kind of that idea that those who think might is right and they follow that leader who believes that, they're going to crumple when they're no longer popular. And that happens a little bit at the end too, because I think even his own men are like, hey, yeah, that's right. Ape did kill Ape. Aldo killed Ape.
What? Pretending they didn't know what happened.
But then they all start chanting, Ape has killed Ape, and it's like at that point they're just going with with the crowd at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. There's still probably a gorilla problem.
Oh, I'm sure there's a gorilla. I mean, everything.
Descartes talks about it later. Wait, sorry, that was terrible. No, don't even listen to me. I said Descartes.
Oh.
The gorilla problem.
The gorilla problem.
So so basically, Caesar finds out that his son's, really badly hurt. So he's basically now entirely focused on being at bedside with Lisa and Cornelius. At
Even
which
though Hot
point,
Woman Doctor is like,
yeah, it's not
he-
good.
he's not going to make it
He's
because
not-
Lisa says, like, level with me, sister.
Yeah,
And she levels with her. And
level with me, sister. That's exactly what Lisa said.
that's how Lisa talks. She's
Yeah.
weird. Played by your lady, right? Isn't Lisa played
Yeah,
by
Natalie Trundy.
Yes, Natalie Trundy. Yeah, yeah.
So she went from human to ape between movies, right? Because
Yep.
she played.
She
the
was
doctor.
April. She's April. Oh God, I can call her April.
She's Lisa in both of these
Lisa in
movies,
both
but
of
she
these
was the
movies.
doctor in
Yeah,
the third movie.
And she was a mutant
That
that
was
saw
the
her
best role.
face in the second.
Yeah, man.
yeah.
Damn,
she was like ethereally creepy and beneath.
Yeah, and Jason was like, "Oh, there's one spooky chick," and he was like,
Uh-huh.
"On
Is she
it."
still alive? Because if she is, I hope she was in one of the newer Ape movies as like something.
She passed away in 2019, so I guess she could have been, but she wasn't.
Oh,
I think she retired from. Yeah, she retired back.
She
in the late
didn't really
70s.
have much of a career after these Apes movies. Yeah,
she kept coming back, so she
did Huck Finn in '74, and then boom, done.
Well,
I've never
Huck
seen
Finn
that.
was also Arthur P. Jacobs. I think Arthur P. Jacobs died during the production of Huckleberry Finn.
Interesting. I've never.
By the
seen
way,
that.
that's also directed by
She started
this-
having children in '76, so I think she married a movie producer, Arthur P. Jacobs, had 2 kids.
yeah, Arthur P. Jacobs is the producer of these movies.
Yeah,
So yeah, he
yeah.
it's because also Huckleberry Finn is J. Lee Thompson, who directed these movies and directed Death Wish 4. I think that's the one in which Bronson blows up the bad guy with a bazooka, which is also the
I
third
want to say
one.
that's 3, but
No, but I'm talking about like out in the middle of the not the crazy people that he blows
Right,
out
right.
the window. He's like some guy's yelling at him and he's just standing there with the bazooka. He's like, you don't yell at Charles Bronson while he's holding the bazooka, and he blows his ass up. And it's either 4 or 5, whatever it is. Charles Bronson has killed multiple people with bazookas,
Yeah,
and that's fucking awesome.
yeah. So it's always something with Chucks. Told
Yeah.
you guys earlier.
Yeah.
J. Lee Thompson also directed Happy Birthday to Me
Yes. He did a lot of canon
and
movies in the 80s.
the original Cape Fear. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he did the original Cape Fear. Yeah. Anyway. So, basically Aldo seizes power at this point. He ends up, talking to his gorilla buddies, and he's like, there's just that one old orangutan in that shed with all the guns. We just overrun it. We loot it. We take what we need, and we're gonna round up people, and we're gonna throw them because they try, I think, to blame. Cornelius does say that it was somebody trying to hurt his father was the perpetrator of his own injury,
And it was not humans.
not humans. But he's like, what? He doesn't see. Sometimes Caesar is not putting everything together. It's like, anyway.
I mean, his kid did fall from a tree. He could be saying weird shit.
That's true. He could be having the fever. But they realize that there was one of his gorillas gets killed by the mutants, and that's the impetus for him to seize power, take over, get all the guns, round up all the humans, and put them in the concentration camp. To which Virgil is like, oh, I don't like this. I need to figure out a way to get to my buddy and tell him. And like the gorilla's like, what are you doing out here, Paul Williams? And he's like, I'm going to sing you a tune.
Yeah,
he
and
runs
then
away.
he
An
sings
old fashioned love song.
just an old-fashioned love song coming down in 3-part harmony. That's not Paul Williams.
What?
Is he in Three Dog Night?
Wait.
Or did he work? Well, I don't know. If Three Dog, what about it'd probably be 3 Ape Night though. in
Three
this
Ape Night. We might be thinking of different songs, but Old Fashioned Love Song is Three Dog Night.
Yeah, well, he has an old fashioned love song as well.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Weird.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Well, there you go. Anyway, Chuck, you were saying.
and that's
What was-
I think Three Dog Night might have covered.
They covered Paul Williams' song?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Interesting. I wouldn't have known that.
I mean,
Learn
let's
something
just
new
say
every day.
that he did Rainbow Connection, and that is Aces.
It is
He wrote
Aces.
that. He co-wrote that, I should say. But,
I don't even know where I was anymore.
anyway, so the
And yes, confirmed. Paul
Yeah.
Williams wrote just an old fashioned love song.
and then
Nice.
the Family of Man and Out in the Country also for. Anyway, so yeah, so basically, word gets back to Caesar that Aldo is up to shenanigans.
Yes, and he corners him
Cornelius
by the-
dies. Yeah.
Yeah, Cornelius dies. They cry a little bit.
And
They go
Virgil's
in the
like,
corner. Yeah, Virgil's like, I know. I have an idea. I can't remember exactly what he says.
well, he says that the branch, there's basically a couple of things I need to tell you. One, McDonald's figured out that the branch was cut, and two, come out here and take a look at what your buddy Aldo's done, which is round up all the humans. To which Cornelius Caesar's like, fuck that. But by then, the mutants have arrived and start.
yes.
And so basically, Aldo and Cornelius put aside their beef. They both lead the defense at this point.
Yeah, but Cornelius, Aldo does kind of fuck off and disappear during the battle.
Yeah.
And they have their big battle. There's Cornelius or Caesar has to retreat with the group. There's the cool scene where everyone feigns their death
Yeah.
and
And fight like apes.
fight like apes. Yeah, and then they all jump him and throw like 600 nets in a row.
Yeah.
On humans. It's just a net montage. It's not as good as the banana in blowtorch montage, but it's a pretty good net montage.
I think Banana Blowtorch Montage should be the name of our band.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I actually wrote it as blowtorch banana montage. So you
That's
guys
fine,
decide
too.
which.
That's
I
fine
like
too.
Blowtorch Banana. It does something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more.
Start with the big one, Blowtorch. And then
Yes.
throw banana in there. Like what?
There's a select few people that would know exactly what you were referencing, though. If you said that,
Oh, most definitely.
we're like, yeah, it's Planet of the Apes. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, they do that feigned death, get up, take out all the humans, but then Caesar again, like he did in the fourth movie, is like, no, don't kill anyone, just let him go. Just let him go, and maybe things will get better. And then Aldo's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
survivors. He fucks back on after fucking off earlier. He fucks back on and like basically kills all the people that had escaped.
I believe that was his entire plan.
Oh yeah.
I
He was
think he
flanking
knew-
to destroy everyone.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
he knew that Caesar was going to let them go and retreat, and he was going to ambush them and cut them off the pass before they could get out.
Again, probably a necessary evil because
Yeah,
if people
probably.
like Culp survive, then we won't have this
Well, if people like Colt
synchronicity
survives, he's going to go back and he's going to rally more people, and it's going to be, holy bomb time.
Yeah, which is
Right, because like the deleted scene has Mendez becoming new governor, talking them out of using the bomb. Yeah, I mean that's a cool ending too. Like, where's that?
But no, I mean, Aldo interestingly saves the day probably, but that's one of those things that in a war, you need to have the people who are thinking like Caesar, who are trying to find peace, whether that's through conversation politics or whatever, or fighting for peace. And you got to have the people who are willing to do the dirty shit, which is sometimes an Aldo,
fucking Aldo.
But in this one thing, he kind of does save, he probably saves the future.
he ends the war.
Yeah.
And I mean, irrespective of the fact that there's a whole rest of the world out there.
Well, he ends this war. He saves this tribe.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything that's taking place here is obviously leading to a future where we assume things are better.
Yeah.
Because Caesar again releases the people. McDonald's like, what do we have to be happy about? Like, we'll never truly be happy unless we're free. Right?
Yeah.
And in order for us to be free, you have to let us go and have our own autonomy, or however he says it.
Yep.
And Caesar apparently does, because we go back to, as you guys had mentioned earlier. Oh, well, I didn't mention the ape kills ape, all that shit that you guys did talk about earlier ends up with Caesar chasing Aldo up a tree. Mm-hmm. And ultimately it just ends in him falling and dying.
Yeah.
Much like Cornelius did.
Yeah, because like the weight of both of them on the same branch, and it makes it uneven. And then Caesar is moving towards him, and he slips and falls, to which Caesar does ask Virgil, it's like, what, it's like, did what
He's
do?
like, does a death deserve another death? And he's like, only the future can answer that, I think is what he said.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that's when we get the flash forward again.
Well,
Yes.
there's one last stinger that McDonald has, which is one guy asks, well, what are they talking about? Because they were all locked up, and McDonald says, I think they just joined the human race.
Yeah.
Which ties back to the whole idea that humans are really good at killing other humans.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess
cool,
instead of the statue with the tear, the original screenplay had ended on a playground with ape and human children fighting, which is kind of a downer, but awesome.
Well, they do. Well, I mean,
she does
depends on what the
push
fight
them.
is.
The little person / black girl pushes the chimp when she speaks up, and like there is like a weird slight altercation there.
Yeah, he yanks her pigtail, and then she pushes him.
Yeah,
so it's just like little kids.
I read that as kids being kids, but yeah.
Well, it's just like Cornelius at one time with his human buddy is playing
what
war.
was originally written in the script. Yeah,
right.
But like, I mean, Cornelius is playing war with a little human buddy of his. So it's like that's just kids being kids, and
right.
It's like you're not far enough out from that being bred out of kids being kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, eventually they won't be like that, but it's going to take some time. And maybe what used to be fighting, playing war with imaginary guns becomes pulling the pigtail and the pushback, or whatever,
Yeah, but it is definitely left to the interpretation. Like, it could go in the next 2,000 years that they end up where we're at.
Judgment Day has been deleted.
Because the lawgiver is the lawgiver. It's the same dude that eventually says in the original timeline, don't trust humans.
Right.
They're going to drop a bomb on you. So that bomb could still be coming.
Yep. Mendez
could still have the bomb.
He's got some
out
kind
there.
of cult cooking. Right? I mean, that never went away.
Maybe. So it depends on what you want to believe.
The geography is weird, but whatever. Yeah.
Well, the other thing also is that for all we know, the lawgiver is an ideologue who comes along later and creates a twisted version of law / religion, right?
I'm pretty sure we're supposed to believe that this is the lawgiver we know.
Well, that's but I mean, but like the other read,
there is no other guy down the line.
I'm just saying that I mean, if we get right back to square one, where eventually humans are dumb, apes are, kind of the quote unquote bad guys like they were in the first movie, right? And a tailor comes along and it leads to another war with the mutants, and the mutants blow up everything. It could be something gets twisted along the way that is right now pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward right now. Caesar says we should all be cool.
Yeah. They just, if they really wanted to answer that, like I mentioned earlier, if they really wanted to answer that, they could have had Taylor re-land and have the future be legitimately different, but they didn't. So
he lands, he shows up at Ape City, and everybody's like, "Hey, Taylor, how's it going?" He's like, "Everybody's gonna get laid," and they all cheer, and it's it's the fucking end of.
And he's like,
"It's all right."
a little ape person starts dancing.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yow.
April, is it done?
April's done.
Yeah.
We could do this again next year with 4 even better Apes movies.
We could. Maybe we will.
I'm assuming Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is going to live up to some hype, at least. Maybe not all of the hype of the first 3, but some hype of what it could be.
Yeah, it's always interesting, right? When it was supposed to, the trilogy was done.
Andy Serkis is done.
Yeah. It could not quite capture the magic. We'll see.
We'll see. Although it looks pretty cool, and it does have some echoes of the original. So,
new director too. You just never know.
You never know. But it looks good.
What we do know is what's coming next week.
Oh, we got another theme. Jason is
more themes.
Oh my goodness, we do. And this one, it's a bit of a leap. So just stay with me, people. It's American Ninja month.
He did it. I was gonna do it if you forgot, but yeah, nice.
We're gonna watch 5 American Ninja movies, and we ain't combining any of them.
I don't know, man.
It's gonna be something. It's gonna be something.
After that month, we're gonna do Benny in June.
These were
a whole month.
For a whole month, for 4 weeks of Benny and June.
Yep.
These were all pandemic watches for me. These American Ninja movies, and they're just
so he's a little crazy. So let's keep that in mind, Chuck.
They're so sponkers and fun. So
I don't know if I'm looking forward to it or not. I mean, these are movies that could have very easily at any point in time shown up on B Movie Enema.
Oh, for sure.
And I would have, jumped right in.
These are just fun. They're just fun, man.
But can I handle 4 or 5 Dudikoffs?
I know. I think Dudikoff is in 3 of them.
3 or 4, I thought. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I always look forward to what we watch, but I don't always on the other end go, I'm glad I watched that.
Well, I think
once we get into American Ninja 4 and 5, our brains are going to be goo and coming out of our noses.
I have a feeling at least the first 2 will be really fun, because I think the plan is still to get together and watch them together back to back and then record them.
It's been a while since we've done that.
It's been a while since we've done that.
I'm going to get drunk.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think these are the kind of movies we should just kind of get a little faded for, and just have fun. Like it's more in the spirit of the original Film Seizure, right?
Sure. We're revisiting old ideas here.
Yeah. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, April was fun though. I had fun with April.
It was fun.
It's always good to take a look at these movies, and yeah, they're a little on the nose, but it is also a product of their time. They
had more meat on the bone than I thought they did.
They also had a lot more hair on the meat on the bone.
They had a lot more. They were hairy for sure, but I knew that they would be hairy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay out of whatever the fuck this is.
And I definitely did not have future mutant humans on my bingo card when I watched these movies.
Sure.
So that was
you didn't.
Something.
I know you didn't in your bingo card have apes traveling backwards through time to modern day Los Angeles either.
No, I did not know that was a thing. Yeah, I did not.
But you knew at some point there would be a takeover, a conquest, if you will.
Yes.
So anyway, that one you could check off. So next week, American Ninja begins.
American Ninja Month.
And the insanity has already begun. That's great.
It is.
So that is next Wednesday, May the 1st. May Day.
Mayday.
American
Nice.
Ninja on May Day. That's great. That's great.
Nice.
Anyway, so tune in, go to filmseizure.com. That's where you can find all the places you can subscribe to us on all your favorite podcast providers, including YouTube. You can listen to us at all those places. That will be available May 1st around 9 a.m., 9:30 Eastern time. This upcoming Monday, also at all those same places, I have an episode of Monster Mondays. This week, it is The Fury, Brian De Palma.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
Nice.
Doing a little more Carrie business, if you
Not
will.
The Rage. That's what we did on the
Yeah.
podcast.
This is The Fury. It's a far better movie than The Rage, but The Rage was fun.
Rage is fun.
So The Fury is this week's Monster Mondays. That is Monday, April 29th, around 2:30 p.m. You can catch those at those same places you can catch Film Seizure. This upcoming Friday, at my website, bmovieanima.com, we are going to be gleaming the cube.
Nice.
Ooh, dang.
That's a B movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it being pretty popular when it came out.
Anything's a B movie. It's a state of mind, man. And this has definitely got the state of mind of a B movie. It's a fun movie though. I liked it. I like it fine. It's a little silly 35 years on, but it's fine. Also, this weekend, another new episode of B Movie Enema, the series. This week I am hosting Kingdom of the Spiders. Bill Shatner in the Arizona brushland with tarantulas all over the goddamn place.
Sure, you love that.
I love half of that, of what I said.
Yeah.
Anyway, check that out Saturday night at YouTube, Vimeo. If you got the B Movie Enema Roku app, you can also listen to a lot of Film Seizure and Monster Mondays there too, and watch those episodes of B Movie Enema the series. All right, fellas, let's get back into our spaceship. Get the hell off this planet of the apes. Let me off this crazy planet. And let's start getting into a ninja mood.
Yes.
Until then, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm handing this off to a lousy human bastard.
Ooh. Jason says no. You have been listening to Film Seizure.